Good morning. How is everybody? Trying to figure out how to make this stupid thing work. All right, we got steps. I did that, I did that, did that. There we go. Now I'm on the road today. It's about Berkeley yet. Maybe this is the time. Let me turn on some lights here. I'm in the dark. It's very early where I am. Hey. Yeah, I'm in Hawaii right now. All right, so there is Christina's asleep. So let's talk about Berkeley, and let's talk about Steve Bannon. Oh my God! So the reason I got on Periscope was I'm seeing the stories about Steve Bannon, and apparently the big story on Time magazine is that he's the master manipulator, the man behind the throne, I guess. And the story is this, and apparently this will be the story you hear all week, so that everybody's gotten the memo by now. So the fake news of the coming week, and I like to tell you the news that's coming. So, you know, a lot of news organizations wait till the news has already happened, but I'll just tell you what it's going to be this coming week. This coming week, it's all about Steve Bannon read some book, and I don't know all the details, but apparently it's some book where somebody has studied history, a couple of authors, called the Fourth Turning or something. And the idea is that every 80 years the country has some kind of a revolution-y like thing and reinvents itself. And that the thinking is that Steve Bannon thinks we're at the beginning or the end of one of those cycles, and that there must be a big conflict coming. Now, I know that people are sometimes influenced by books. In fact, every day people write to me and say, "Hey, your book has changed me in some way or whatever." So people do get changed by books. That's a real thing. But what are the odds that Steve Bannon, who I believe went to Harvard, was let me just give you an idea of his credentials. All right, I don't know him. I'm just giving you an idea of his credentials. So he's a Harvard guy. I hear he's brilliant. He was an investment banker at Goldman Sachs, and they don't hire dumb people. Yeah, naval officer, entrepreneur, ran Breitbart. So he's done a few things, right? But what are the odds that he read this book, no matter how good this book was, and decided he was going to launch, do what he can to launch World War III, because the book predicts it's going to happen. Does even any of that make sense? Right? the, the and by the way, I've told you this before, but do you know how you can tell a good hoax? A good hoax is one in which only the people who are being hoaxed believe it. Right? So the whole point of a good hoax is that everyone else who sees it knows, without even being in on it, they know just from the face of it, it's obviously a hoax. So what makes it a good practical joke or a good hoax is that only the people who are the target of the hoax are the only ones who believe it. And then that becomes what's funny for everybody else. That how stupid could you be? So usually a hoax plays on somebody's ego. And let me give you an example of a good hoax. Let's say you have a friend, male or female, and they think they're kind of beautiful, but they're just ordinary people. But they have a big ego. So a good hoax for that kind of person would be, hey, a model search person contacted me because they think I know you, and they're trying to get you for a cover of a magazine. Right? Literally no one but the subject of the hoax would believe that, because everybody else thinks that person isn't all that. All right. So look at the Bannon hoax that's coming. The idea that he was hypnotized by a book to become to do all he could to to start World War III. The only people who would believe that are the protesters and the people who are sure Trump is Hitler. If you're looking at it from the outside, it's just sort of hilarious, and you think to yourself, well, you can't take that too seriously, right? That he read a book and now he wants World War III to destroy the world or something. Probably not. All right. So if you're looking at it with any objectivity whatsoever, you know that there isn't any chance that he's trying to make the world, have a war. At most, he thinks there's some predictive power to these 80-year cycles, and it may have something to do with, and I could easily see that there would be something to it, just because it's about the lifespan of a human. So you can imagine that there are big changes every time there's a new generation. So I could kind of see why things might run in cycles like that, but it looks a lot more like fitting the past to whatever the hell you want. Right. So the whole thing, it's about generational cycles. Okay, well that was a pretty good guess. 4 generation types, one raising the next. Yeah, well, it sounds like an interesting book, and it may have some predictive power, but that doesn't mean that Bannon wants those things to happen. I'm sure he doesn't, want World War III. He just thinks it might happen. Now, I was just watching a video by somebody who looks like a service person or maybe a contractor stationed in Iraq. And he was asking the locals what would happen to him if he just took a walk outside the guarded zone in Iraq. And they said, well, it would take less than an hour for somebody to kidnap you, torture you, and kill you, behead you, and show it in public as as propaganda. But he made a point to say, I'm not even talking about Al-Qaeda or the bad guys. I'm not talking about ISIS. He said, these were the locals. And by the way, that was the locals talking about the locals. So he was talking to the local Iraqis who said matter-of-factly that if he left because he's an American, he'd be dead. By the locals, not ISIS, not the terrorists, not anybody, just the locals. They would just kill him. And so his question provocatively was, if I'm not welcome in this country, why would we welcome you in our country? So, what he was trying to do is sort of change the frame from it's only this 1% of protesters to there are some countries, the banned ones in particular, where it would be insanely dangerous to be an American just in the wrong neighborhood. Good morning, good morning. Dynacorp. Henry Rollins. I don't know about Henry Rollins. Reporter, you mean? I think Iran is actually safe. I think Iraq is the more dangerous one right now. So, the book is The Fourth Turning or something. It's going to sell a lot of copies of that book. I wish I had that. All right, let me talk about Berkeley for a minute. I just saw some chilling video from Berkeley where the quote anti-fascists were wearing black masks and carrying baseball bats and surrounding and beating people that they decided were Nazis. Anti-First Amendment, yeah. So, unfortunately, I have my degree from Berkeley, one of them. I got my MBA there. And I gotta say, I'm pretty embarrassed by the whole thing right now. Yeah, I don't make any alumni donations. I am very active with Berkeley's startup ecosystem, but I'm reconsidering that. So I've actually, that's not true. I donated a large amount of money to Berkeley in the form of a project to help organize the startup world over there. And I gotta say, if Berkeley doesn't like me, why would I do anything for them? And at this point, it's pretty clear that that Berkeley doesn't like me. They haven't said that, but just the fact that I write about Trump It certainly means they hate me. All right, well, oh fuck it. I'm going to make a decision right here. Anybody want to watch me make a decision? I'm going to disavow Berkeley right now, and fuck them. I'm done with them. So I've been doing a tremendous amount of stuff for them for their startup ecosystem, and I probably put in $50,000 or so of expenses to help them organize. And really, I was doing it for the good of the world because the startup ecosystem is really strong over there, and it just needed a little help breaking out to really make some big differences. But I got to say, fuck them. And it has nothing to do with the good people I've been working with. But if I'm not welcome in Berkeley, and by the way, I haven't gone to Berkeley like physically. I don't think so. I don't think I have. I had been visiting there quite often because of the work with the startups and such. But I don't think I would ever go on campus again. It doesn't, well, at least until something changes. Every 80 years things change apparently. Yeah, so I'm done with Berkeley. I disavow them. Just because they disavowed me first. I mean, they didn't have to say that in words, but it's pretty clear that if I showed up over there, somebody with a mask and a stick would beat the fuck out of me. Do you see I love any stories where an MMA fighter gets into trouble. Apparently there was some MMA fighter who was over there during the Berkeley riots, and somebody was getting beaten by a crowd, and so he just decided to take out the crowd. I think there were too many of them in the long run, but he was the only one I saw who was calmly talking to a group of people with sticks, and they looked more afraid than he was. I love those stories. Um, so let's talk about another topic, Starbucks. I'm going to ask you a question on here. One of the things I love about Periscope is that I can ask you a question and get sort of this flash opinion and survey. So here's the question. How many of you know people who claim to have anxiety problems? And anxiety is the underlying problem behind apparently OCD and depression. So if you were to cure the anxiety, people's OCD and their depression would be much less. Yeah, everyone I know, everyone I know. Let me say something that's going to blow your fucking minds. All right, that's why you come here, right? You like to hear at least one thing that's going to blow your mind. I know a top professional in the mental health field, trained psychiatrist, who, when he works with somebody who has anxiety, do you know what's the first thing he tells them to do? What's the first thing he tells somebody to do when they say, I have anxiety, please help me? No coffee. Exactly. Yeah, there are other changes, lots of other changes. But the number one change, the first thing you do to get a handle on it is you stop drinking coffee. Now, let me ask you this. Is it my imagination, or was this anxiety thing something that I hadn't heard of when I was a kid? It seemed to me that nobody had anxiety when I was a kid. I just never heard of it. It seems like it's a last 10-year thing. Now, if you were to make a graph of the growth of Starbucks stores, that would go up. That would be this graph. And you made another graph of the rate of anxiety, depression, and OCD diagnoses. Is it a coincidence? Well, I drink a lot of coffee. As you know, I'm going to go get my cup right now. I think my Keurig has done its thing. There we go. And so I drink a lot of coffee, as I said. And so I think I have pretty high tolerance, right? Because I'm drinking a lot of it. But if I go to Starbucks and order anything from Starbucks, it'll blow the top of my head off. So I don't know how Starbucks makes their coffee so strong. It's like crazy strong. I'm not sure what they do to it. Is it the heat or some special process or whatever? But is it a coincidence that Starbucks, with their super addictive, super strong caffeine, comes out? Caffeine is the first thing that mental health people tell you to stop if you have anxiety. And the rate of anxiety-related problems in this country appears, this is just anecdotal, I'd love to see a study on this, it appears to have gone through the roof at about the same time that Starbucks became everywhere. So, coincidence? I don't know. Yeah, you do have withdrawal if you stop. I've heard people say that, you think Adderall? Yeah, the people on anxiety don't seem to be on Adderall, though. They're all on coffee. So here's my homework for you today. For the people that you know who are suffering from anxiety, ask them if they are big coffee drinkers, and in particular if they drink at Starbucks or Pete's or one of the others that has super strong caffeine. My theory ignores technology. Yeah. So I have a second theory, which I believe I've shared maybe on Periscope, and I think they could be connected. Which is that people looking at their screens makes them unhappy. There's something about the light itself that makes you unhappy. But in addition, and this was confirmed again in some science, when you hunch over to look at your phone, and I'm doing it right now, I'm like, my back, can't see me, but like, look, I'm all hunched over. That when you hunch over, it actually makes you depressed. Oh, I'm sitting up straight now. So I actually go out of my way to make sure I adjust my posture to avoid that. So, but I think that since our phones especially are created by companies that make their money by addicting us to our devices, that we're literally like chickens getting our pellet. And I feel like that when I'm on Twitter. I can't even when I'm on Twitter, I feel like I can't stop sometimes. It's like an addiction. I'm in Maui. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say there might be two primary causes of the outbreak of anxiety. One would be the physical devices, but I'm not blaming technology. I'm not saying, oh, technology is bad. We should, roll it back to the caveman days. I'm pro technology. The problem with technology is that the main technology companies, Google, Apple, Microsoft, those guys, their business model, Facebook in particular, their business model involves interrupting you. So if you try to use your phone for anything, you're jumping from app to app, and it's like, uh, no, I'm still in favor of drinking coffee. Uh, but Starbucks is sort of super coffee, and I've never recommended Starbucks in particular, although I go there as well. Uh, You think anxiety is caused by social dynamics? Technology is breeding ADHD. Yeah, I think it is. You think it's the solvents in the Starbucks that's the problem? I don't know which tweet you're talking about. Persuade us that the political violence isn't going to escalate to manslaughter. No, I think it will. I'll make a prediction that somebody will get killed. Pretty sure somebody will get killed. Let me, I hate to be the